Alright, hi biology students. I just wanted to give you a rundown of what meiosis is before you continue on to your other assignments. So first let's talk about a few terms. We're going to talk about different genetic and mitosis terms. So genetics is just a branch of biology concerned with the study of genes. And you've probably heard this term before, genetics, okay? The study of genetics and trying to figure out maybe what genes will be inherited when you're like pregnant and going to have a baby. So genetics is a really up and coming career right now, and it's something that you can make quite a lot of money doing. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you really should look into it as a career. And a gene is a specific region of DNA that codes for a protein. So we've talked a lot about how sections of DNA are actually codes for different proteins. So a gene would be a specific region that codes for a very specific protein, and the protein's going to express that gene. So for example, you have a segment of DNA that's going to code for your eye color. So right up here. Here would be that one gene, so it's one section of DNA, and it holds whatever eye color you're going to have, and then you're going to express that trait through making a protein that's going to give you that eye color. So next we're going to talk about diploid and haploid cells. So diploid cells contain two complete sets of chromosomes. Okay, so all of our body cells, everything that we talked about in the cell cycle and mitosis, are going to be diploid cells. And in humans, we have 46 total, or 23 pairs. So you have one set from mom and one set from dad. And anytime you see these two letters here, 2N, that means that it's going to be a diploid cell. And then haploid cells are cells that contain one complete sets of chromosomes. So they only have 23 total, not 23 pairs. And these cells are our gametes. So they're going to be sperm and egg, or sex cells, and they're going to be represented by the letter N. So if you look at this chart over here, okay, anything that's going to be diploid is going to be a somatic cell or a non-reproductive cell. Okay, and then we have gametes over here, which are going to be haploid, so it's going to be our sperm and our egg. All right, and so this just shows you here your haploid cells contain one copy of a chromosome, and diploid contains two. So this one would be like from your mom, and this one would be from your dad. Same thing here, mom, dad, where gametes only have half the amount of chromosomes. So we need to talk about what homologous chromosomes and sister chromatids are. So homologous chromosomes are chromosomes that carry the same genes, so one from mom and one from dad. So this is a pair of chromosomes, right? So we'll just say this is pair 1 out of your 23. And what it means by homologous is maybe this right here is the gene for eye color. This also is the gene for eye color. Let's say this is the gene for how tall you are. This is also the gene for how tall you are. So they carry the exact same genes. Now this might be coding for blue eyes, and this might be coding for brown eyes, and this might be coding for 6'2", and this one might be coding for 5'2", but it's still the same genes. You got this one from mom and this one from dad, but they both contain eye color and height. And then sister chromatids are a copy of that chromosome. So over here, here's your chromosome from mom, right? Once it replicates, these are known as a sister chromatid. So this is one sister chromatid and this is one sister chromatid. So hopefully yesterday you filled out this chart. So in mitosis we produce somatic cells or body cells. In meiosis we produce sperm and egg. Mitosis we're producing cells that are diploid, and in meiosis they're haploid. In mitosis you have one cell division, but in meiosis you have two. In mitosis you're going to produce 2 cells, and meiosis 4. And then obviously we talked about those different chromosome numbers in the mitosis and meiosis cells. Okay, so here we go. Here's just the outcomes. Mitosis, you're going to create 2 diploid cells, and then in meiosis, you're going to be creating 4 haploid cells, or gametes. So meiosis has 2 separate cell divisions, and what's kind of nice is they're the same name as your meiotic stages. So you have meiosis 1, which contains prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, and then telophase 1 and cytokinesis. And then meiosis 2 has the same prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2, and cytokinesis. And the reason is because, remember, we have to produce 4 cells, so that's why we have those 2 divisions. So we need to talk a little bit about the important steps that happen in meiosis 1. We're not going to go through every single stage because the same things kind of happen. In metaphase, they line up on the plate, etc. But we do need to talk about a few things. So in interphase 1, this is when your DNA replication occurs. And DNA replication occurs only once. It does not happen again after meiosis 1 because you want to reduce the number of chromosomes. Remember, you're creating 4 haploid cells. So you only replicate your DNA once. And then in prophase 1, you have a phenomenon called crossing over occurring. So you have homologous chromosomes lining up. Remember, so this is homologous chromosomes, meaning that this is a chromosome from mom, this is a chromosome from dad, and they have the same genes. So where they cross over right here and they actually swap DNA, they basically swapped the gene for like hair color example. So maybe this is blonde hair and this is brown hair. They literally swapped that information with each other, and this is what really allows for a huge genetic diversity, because if you look now, you legitimately have 4 different sister chromatids there instead of 2. So here's just going over meiosis 1. It's kind of nice. It shows that you have the crossing over here. So your daughter nuclei are very different. And then remember, in meiosis 1, you're just creating 2 haploid cells. And then in meiosis 2, this is where now we want to split again. So we literally split sister chromatids. So in meiosis 1, it's important to know that we split homologous chromosomes. And in meiosis 2, we split the sister chromatids. And our outcome is 4 unique gamete cells. So along with random fertilization, meaning that, let's say these are 4 sperm right here, and this is 1 egg. You are going to have any one of these 4 sperm fertilize that 1 egg. So it has that genetic diversity because of random fertilization. This is just going over the important steps again. This is meiosis 2, making the sister chromatids separate, and it's the same thing. Literally in metaphase they line up, anaphase they separate. Telophase 2, you're starting to get the new nuclei forming, and then in cytokinesis, you're going to have the splitting of the cytoplasm and then creating those 4 unique daughter cells. And I like this picture here because I wanted to show you that your DNA replication happens in meiosis 1. So it happens up here in interphase 1. And then when it talks about recombination, that's just meaning you're crossing over. And then in meiosis 1, you have the separation of the homologous chromosomes. So like I said, this is a homologous chromosome here. Okay, 1 from mom, 1 from dad, and they carry the same genes. Those are what separate. And what you're left with in your new cells are sister chromatids. So you're left with these sister chromatids here, and in meiosis 2 is when you have the separation of the sister chromatids. So this is kind of interesting. When we talk about meiosis in human gametes, it's kind of cool to know that in males produce 4 gametes each time meiosis occurs, so they produce 4 sperm. In females, though, it's a little bit different. So your egg is a really, really, really large cell. It takes a lot of cellular energy, a lot of cellular machinery to really be working properly. So when females go through meiosis, they actually create what we call 3 polar bodies and 1 egg. So the polar bodies never become fertilized. We kind of focus all our attention just on the 1 egg. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is asexual versus sexual reproduction. So everything that we've talked about so far has been kind of dealing with sexual reproduction. So you have 2 parents that are passing their genes on to an offspring. You have sperm and egg uniting to create your zygote, and the offspring is not an exact replica of the parents. But in asexual reproduction, this is when a single parent gives rise to an offspring. So you're basically creating a clone. It's kind of like mitosis for bacteria. So binary fission is what bacteria do, and literally when you look over here, the bacteria will replicate its DNA, it will grow a ton, it will move the DNA to separate regions, and then the cell will just split in half. So basically you're creating an exact clone of that one bacterium, where up here in sexual reproduction you have a very different offspring from the two parents because of the mixing of genes. Alright, so that's where we're going to pause. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.